Hey guys, so today we have another concept car video and we're going to take a look at the Chrysler Portofino, a mid-engine sedan that was built to symbolize the Chrysler takeover of Lamborghini. If you're not familiar with my other concept car videos, make sure to check those out in the top right corner, as I've done many on the various Mopar vehicles. You can find the video outline on screen, where today we are going in depth on the background info, exterior and interior, the performance, future plans, and looking at why the Chrysler Portofino was cancelled. So let's get started. Way back in 1986, Chrysler designer Kevin Verdun created a concept car for the company called the Chrysler Navajo, but the project didn't really catch on and only a clay model was developed. The next year in 1987, Chrysler CEO Lee Iacocca led Chrysler to purchase Lamborghini, who had some perpetual financial troubles. Lamborghini had been purchased in 1981 by 24-year-old French entrepreneur Patrick Mimran, and also his brother Jean-Claude. They bought the failing assets for $3 million, invested in expansion, added the Jalpa sports car and LM002 off-road vehicle, and then they sold the company to Chrysler for $25.2 million on April 23rd of 1987. The rumors were that Chrysler wanted to get rid of their blue-collar image and go international, and in fairness, this wasn't a whole lot of money to them at the time, as they had just turned a profit of $1.4 billion the previous year. As the New York Times reported, quote, Lamborghini has been known in automotive circles to be financially ailing. Chrysler paid only a relatively small amount for the 300-employee company. End quote. Going back to Verdun's design, Chrysler Executive Vice President Bob Lutz saw some potential there and ordered a few tweaks to be made, turning it into a Lamborghini concept. So, by refining some details, the Navajo was transformed into the Portofino. Of course, built to symbolize the Chrysler takeover of Lamborghini. And just a few months after the ink had dried on the acquisition, Chrysler was already showing off this Portofino at the 1987 Frankfurt Motor Show in Germany. No one knew what to call it. Some argued it was a Chrysler, a Lamborghini, or a Chrysler Lamborghini, so all the names are kind of accurate and acceptable. It even wears a Chrysler Pentastar badge with the Lambo Raging Bull inside, just to add to the confusion and novelty. In more technical terms, this is a 4-door sports sedan, mid-engine, and rear-wheel drive. The Portofino was built on the Lamborghini Jalpa chassis, which was lengthened by 66 centimeters or 25.98 inches to be able to accommodate the extra doors by adding some more rear interior space. Chrysler described this as, quote, the ultimate mid-engine touring sedan, end quote. So from the original clay model of the Chrysler Navajo, the styling was changed to better show the connection between Lamborghini and Chrysler. There are no B-pillars, and that's because Chrysler added scissor doors, or Lambo doors, where all 4 of them opened upwards. The 2 front doors pivot forward like on the Lamborghini Countach, while the 2 rear ones were hinged in the back, so they open vertically towards the rear. Just to talk a bit about the scissor doors, the first vehicle to feature them was actually the 1968 Alfa Romeo Carabo concept, which had such poor rear visibility that the driver had to lift the front door and lean out to see behind the car. The first production car to feature them was the Countach, hence why they're often called Lambo doors, as again the wide chassis and unusual design of that car made it impossible to back up without the doors open wide. This was also the first instance of the cab forward design, where the passenger cabin gets pushed forward so the front doors sit right at the edge of the wheel wells, and the windshield is extended forward over the engine. The rear wheels are also shifted back towards the far corners of the vehicle. By moving the wheels farther towards the edges of the car, this cab forward design makes for a larger and more spacious interior than some other vehicles that are similar in size. Everything ahead of the cabin, including the engine, is packed into a much smaller space, leaving more room for the rest of the car and the interior. Finally, the concept was painted in char gold, which would later be available as an optional color on the Dodge Intrepid and Chrysler Concorde, and this concept was built by Sergio Caggiola, a designer in Turin, Italy. The interior featured 3 different shades of textured, hand-sewn leather, with yellow piping on the seats and accents on the steering wheel and shift knob. We can also see that unique bull, again, inside of the Pentastar, front and center on the steering wheel. The center console ran through the entire length of the cabin, dividing both sides of the vehicle internally, while also adding stiffness to the structure. Everything was adjustable, the seats, steering wheel, switchgear, and instrument pods, so that the driver could find the optimal position for each. And thanks to the cab forward design, it was fairly roomy inside. The Portofino used the Lamborghini Jalpa engine and transmission, which meant a 3.5-liter V8 and 5-speed manual. The engine was all aluminum, transversely mounted, and put right behind the rear seats. Power output was good for 225 horsepower and 229 pound-feet of torque. The engine could rev to 7,000 RPM and had output of 64.6 horsepower per liter. The performance times were never officially tested, but the sedan was fully functional and could reach a top speed of 149 miles per hour. Chrysler built just one copy of the concept, but it made its way to many auto shows and most of the industry really liked the design. So did Chrysler, and Vice President at the time, Bob Lutz, would sign off for the car to go to production as a Chrysler model. Lamborghini, though, had some other ideas, as Car Design News reported that they hated the design and they called it a big potato. However, the decision wasn't fully up to them as Chrysler did own them, and just like many other concepts, it was cancelled for no specific reason after 1991. Now, it may have been cancelled, but that's not to say that it didn't leave its mark for Chrysler Corporation for the next 2 decades. The Portofino became the base for all of the cab-forward vehicles that Chrysler made through the 1990s and 2000s, and that design was officially used by Chrysler on a production vehicle starting in 1992 with the first model of the Dodge Intrepid sedan. The wide low stance and open plan interior would become the hallmark of the Chrysler LH body vehicles and their cab-forward design, where the wheels were moved close to the corners and the cabin was stretched to maximize the interior space, as we've been over earlier. Other LH platform vehicles included the Chrysler Concorde, Chrysler LHS, Chrysler 300M, Dodge Intrepid, Eagle Vision, and the final Chrysler New Yorker. As mentioned earlier, the char gold color would also find its way into production. Their rear wing would be used for the Dodge and Chrysler Stealth, and the triangular headlights and the dual notched rear indicators also found their way directly to the first generation Intrepid. So while the one-of-a-kind Portofino didn't survive, its legacy lived on, influencing Chrysler for the next 20 years. As always with these videos, I like to ask the question of what if. So what if this actually made it to production, and could it have been feasible? Well, at the time, Lamborghini built 3 vehicles, the Countach, Jalpa, and LM002. While they could have added the Portofino to their lineup, we already saw how much they hated the design, so this vehicle would have probably had to be a Chrysler. In the end though, things worked out for both companies. Without Chrysler, Lamborghini would not be where they are today, a profitable, successful, and outrageous company. Under Chrysler, the Countach was replaced with the Diablo, and the Jalpa and LM002 were discontinued, and Chrysler would end up selling the company in 1994. And of course, the LH platform helped Chrysler get through some financial turmoil in the 1990s, so we kind of did see a version of this concept come to production. But unfortunately for car enthusiasts, the LH vehicles became rather boring, mainstream family vehicles with a front-engine front-wheel drive layout, which is the total opposite of the Portofino concept. So you could say your grandpa's old Intrepid really started out as a Lamborghini. As for some extra info, only the single prototype Portofino was ever built in 1987, however it was damaged in an accident in 1991. The transporter truck that was carrying the concept rolled over, and the vehicle was smashed up. Chrysler wanted to preserve their beloved concept, and they paid metal crafters in California $300,000 US to restore it. The Portofino also would get one upgrade during the restoration process: real glass instead of plexiglass that was used on the concept. Metal crafters built many of the Chrysler concepts during this era, so they knew they were in good hands. The single copy of the Portofino now has been stored at the Chrysler World Headquarters and Technology Center in Auburn Hills, Michigan since 1999. As for Lamborghini, they would take another shot at making a 4-door sedan in 2008 with their Estoque concept car, but that didn't make it to production. The Portofino name did catch on, however, with Ferrari, which went into production in 2018. So that's the end of this video, guys. What did you think of the Portofino? I really do think it was a lost opportunity, and I wonder what could have been. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and make sure to like and subscribe for more Mopar content, and let me know if you want to see other concept car videos like this one. I'll see you guys in the next video.